Bart and Hahn.
When you quit and you tell your wife you're going to do something not once but twice and you decide to go back on your word, there are consequences to those actions. And he looked like maybe, man, like things ain't all copacetic in his life right now.
Yeah.
And he ain't gelling right now. If he's not gelling, they need him to gel. Because, yeah, we expect him to be able to win games, but I told you already, I believe that this is the Saints' division to win.
Bart and Hahn, weekdays at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN+.
There will come a time, not long in the future. There will be a place, not far from here.
One-handed catch, a touchdown!
We will join. We will come together.
Georgia has won.
We will rise. We will fight. And we will win.
College football returns Saturday, September 3rd to ESPN Radio. Sports Center All Night continues with Jay Reynolds.
TJ and Max coming up at 6 a.m. Eastern Time here on ESPN Radio. Sports Center All Night presented by Progressive Insurance. We know what happened last week with Duke's volleyball team when they went to BYU. The racial slur that was heard. South Carolina basketball coach Dawn Staley said she didn't want her players in line for any abuse, so she has called off their home and home with BYU. Said she didn't want to put her players in that situation. Let's turn now to Chris Smith and get Sunday's top sounds.
Number 5.
Hello, Jay. We start at the U.S. Open, where Nick Kyrgios looked to eliminate defending U.S. Open champion and number 1 ranked Daniil Medvedev. The call on ESPN2.
What a show. Kyrgios dethrones Medvedev, ends his reign at number 1, and declares himself the man to beat in New York at this U.S. Open.
Number 4.
Next, we turn to the gridiron, where LSU's new head coach Brian Kelly looked for his team to make the late-game heroics. The call on ESPN Radio.
Here's the snap. Final play of the game. A throw to the back of the end zone. The pass is caught. Touchdown LSU. Jeray Jenkins in the back of the end zone. And the Tigers are an extra point away from tying it up with zeros on the scoreboard in regulation.
Number 3.
On the diamond, Aaron Judge, the Yankees' best offensive weapon, led off against the Rays. The call on the Yes Network.
Drill deep to left field. If it's fair, it's gone. It is gone. Home run number 53 and a 1-0 Yankee lead.
Number 2.
Speaking of launching bombs, Albert Pujols joined the party, pinch hitting in the 8th. The call on the Cardinals Radio Network.
The one-strike pitch. A swing. A long one. Left center field. It's a gunner for Pujols. 695. 2-0 Cardinals in the 8th. Unbelievable.
Number 1.
And a wild weekend of college football continues as LSU look to send their game against Florida State into overtime. The call on ESPN Radio.
Florida State 24, LSU 23. The freshman Damian Ramos for the extra point and the biggest kick of his life thus far. The snap is back. The hold is down. The kick is low. It's no good. No good. Florida State has won in New Orleans. The final score, the Seminoles 24 and the Tigers 23.
LSU, the only SEC team to lose this first full weekend of college football. Number 2, Ohio State, a win for the Big Ten with their 21-10 win over 5th-ranked Notre Dame. Kind of a lackluster performance. Here's our Paul Feinbaum.
And I know there's a lot of overreacting today, but that's what we do on the first week of college football. But Ohio State survived, and I think the team that impressed me the most was Notre Dame. I didn't expect that. I really expected a blowout here. I didn't think this would be close because I believed what everyone told me, that Ohio State was so great. I think they can be, but the pressure of the moment, I think, got to them. Notre Dame came in with a really great game plan by Marcus Freeman. He really exceeded expectations. in his debut at Notre Dame. But I think in the end, let's calm down a little bit. Ohio State has a pretty good path ahead. They have a few difficult games on the road and, of course, Michigan at the end. But I still think they're going to get there come December.
Ohio State, not the prettiest win, but they do hold on, and it's a win nonetheless. Then there's Georgia, which pummels Oregon. ESPN's Heather Dinich isn't all that surprised.
I have Georgia ranked ahead of Alabama. To me, Alabama and Georgia could certainly be playing for the national championship again. I'm curious to see what happens, though, as they go along. Do they continue to win like that? What does Oregon continue to look like? I just think going into this season, there were questions about Georgia and their defense. They lost so many guys, 5 first-round NFL draft picks on defense, and they didn't miss a beat.
Heather Dinich will be here this morning, 7:45 Eastern Time. Georgia, as she mentioned, didn't miss a beat. They're still the biggest threat to Alabama, says ESPN senior writer Adam Rittenberg.
The things we saw yesterday, I mean, the dominance of their defense, which again lost all those players to the NFL, they still keep Oregon out of the end zone. And I know that's an Oregon offense that isn't where it will be in the coming years, but you had, a guy in Bo Nix who had seen Georgia before. You had some other players who'd had success on that Ducks offense, but then their own offense. That was the story to me, guys. Stetson Bennett, a nearly flawless performance.
And then there's Virginia Tech's loss to Old Dominion, which was a trip to forget. The Hokies lose Brent Pry's debut as head coach. Their coaching staff was delayed in returning for the second half because they were trapped in a malfunctioning elevator. And when players got back to the visiting locker room, they found stuff had been stolen from their lockers during the game. The school says police are investigating. It's Monday, September 5th, birthday of Bill Mazeroski, the only player to hit a championship-winning walk-off home run in Game 7 of the World Series. He's 86 today. Ohio State hangs on to beat Notre Dame. Former Buckeyes quarterback Cardale Jones is here this morning, 9 o'clock Eastern on Key, Jay, and Matt.
With other lenders, it can feel like they're calling the wrong plays. Not Cross Country Mortgage. They're the masterminds behind perfect play calling. Go with them, and your home loan experience will end in a victory parade in your new neighborhood. You're the perfect free agent to sign with the best loan originators in the game, and Cross Country Mortgage is dedicated to getting it done. Reach out to them today at ccm.com. That's ccm.com. Equal housing opportunity. All loans subject to underwriting approval. Cross Country Mortgage, LLC. NMLS 3029. NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
ESPN Radio presents a Labor Day Major League Baseball doubleheader.
Judge swinging way out of here.
First in the Bronx, Aaron Judge and the Yankees face the Minnesota Twins. Then in Houston, the Texas Rangers come to town to face Jose Altuve and the Astros. Coverage of the Yankees and Twins begins at 12:30 Eastern, followed by the Astros and Rangers. A Labor Day doubleheader on ESPN Radio. You can also listen on the ESPN app or on your smart speaker.
Tuesday on Bert and Hahn, we're getting closer and closer to the Rams-Bills NFL season opener. We'll tell you which team has the best chance to raise the Lombardi Trophy. That's Bert and Hahn, 12 o'clock Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN+.
What's our level of concern? 0, 50, or to the max? This is 0 to the max.
All right. What's the level of concern for teams with young quarterbacks, 0, 50, or to the max? Shannon, come in on this, man. I want to play.
All right, here we go. I'm going to lay this up for you guys. As you just said, Max, I want your level of concern, 0, 50, or to the max for these young quarterbacks. We just talked about Trey Lance. So let's start there. Keyshawn, Trey Lance in San Francisco. Level of concern for him there with the 49ers. What you got?
I would probably say to the max. A level of concern because I don't know what he is. He hadn't particularly looked well in his preseason debuts or even to a point where he played a little bit mop-up duty at times a year ago. He just doesn't – I don't know what it is, and I haven't had the chance to see practice to really gauge what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan thought of him. I just don't know, but I'm concerned because if I don't know, that means something.
I would say low. It's apparent that I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have him as a quarterback to be the future
that
for the
franchise.
franchise.
0 or a 50? You only 50. Have 3 options.
50.
Okay.
50. I mean, obviously, they've seen something. Now, does it need more time to be fostered correctly? Potentially. But they made it pretty apparent that he is the future of their organization.
I would say I am at a 50. And the 50 represents the thing that Key said. I don't know. I just don't know.
You don't know, but
and
these guys have seen him a ton.
I guess, but he's still like 1 year. He was always going to be a project with high upside, right? 1 year in the league, man. In the old days, that was normal, and you were still going to be no good in year 2 if you started, right? Like, so I don't know is a 50.
Did you miss Canty and Carlin?
The Cowboys are worse, are they not, than they were at this time last year? Talking about re-signing the safety to a 2-year, $10 million deal. That's their most important offseason move, to the fact that I have forgotten his name in this very moment. If that is your biggest move of the offseason, where I can't even remember the name of the safety that you re-signed, that's a problem.
Canty and Carlin, weekdays on ESPN Radio and on ESPN Plus. This is Greeny with Mike Greenberg.
Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons are each individually highly motivated. Durant, because when you cut through all of the other nonsense that goes with him, he's one of the greatest players that ever lived and burns to be great. Kyrie Irving has every reason in the world to show up and play every single day because he's never going to get paid what his talent would suggest he is worth if he doesn't go out there and play every single day. And Ben Simmons is a guy who I think has put himself in some serious jeopardy of the whole world forgetting that he's like an all-NBA caliber player. No one talks about him that way anymore. But that's how good he is. So they are going to be motivated. They're going to be together. I think the Nets are a legitimate championship contender as currently constituted.
Greeny with Mike Greenberg, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and watch exclusively on ESPN Plus.
Are you the emperor?
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
This first full weekend of college football. Number 2, Ohio State, a win for the Big Ten with their 21-10 win over 5th-ranked Notre Dame.
Ohio State survived, and I think the team that impressed me the most was Notre Dame. I really expected a blowout here.
Brian Kelly drops his opener as the coach at LSU, and it comes in crushing fashion.
Florida State 24, LSU 23. The freshman Damian Ramos for the extra point. The snap is back. The hold is down. The kick is low. It's no good. Florida State has won in New Orleans. Final score: the Seminoles 24 and the Tigers 23.
And welcome to the labor of love that is Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max with Harry Douglas and Freddie Coleman. Thanks for joining us on ESPN Radio. Catch us on the ESPN app. Watch us on ESPN Tune, and tune in to us on Twitter at Coleman ESPN and at H Douglas 83. H Douglas, H Boogie, what's going on this morning, brother?
Nothing much, my man, Freddie. You know, I love being on with you.
Amen.
Labor Day.
Yes.
While all you slackers are at home taking this Labor Day off, me and Freddie right here, Pat Costello, also my boy James Steele back there working, and Alan Yates. We're here working on Labor Day. That's what we do, though, baby.
As my football coach from Massey University, Tom Elsass, always said after training camp, we are going to labor on Labor Day, but it's going to be a labor of love. Unless you're an LSU football fan, because they're not family. They could not catch the ball between you and me. How many times have we seen games like this? And a guy that we all know very well, Marty Schottenheimer, a guy who I think Harry should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He used to say a lot more football games are lost more than won if you can avoid turnovers, big plays allowed, pre-snap foolish penalties, and kicking game errors. All that happened to LSU losing 24-23 last night to Florida State down in the Superdome in New Orleans.
Yeah, Freddie, and I think it was more so a theme around college football, too, and it just trickled down to Sunday night when it came to LSU. Special teams matter. So a lot of people there, they get enamored by the offensive plays, the big touchdowns and the big runs, and then defensively, the interceptions, the sacks, and all that.